Guys, I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School, and I'm here just hanging out in the cart and living life and loving life. And I'm really loving life today because I get a chance to talk to my good friend and respected colleague, Miss Danielle Pierce. Danielle is the co-founder of economicelevation.com, among many other things that she's done, and she'll tell you more about that. But one of the things we wanted to talk about today is this. This came up when I was having a conversation with someone else the other day as well. Danielle brought it to me, but it's funny because I had talked to someone about this. How do you make a lot of money without a college degree? Is that possible? Is it possible? Do you need a degree to make money? I think most of us will agree that that's not a requirement, but sometimes, the how is a little bit different from, the what. And so, Danielle, first, I want to ask my sister, how are you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal, Dr. Boyce. Thank you for having me on the show again. I definitely appreciate it.
Oh, I'm happy to have you. I think this is a really great topic. I know our audience members will be very interested in what you have to say on this. And I want to say hey to Latrice and everybody on Instagram, The Real Boyce Watkins. Hello to everybody there, and Sammy Cook and Sammy Cookies and Nakia Clark and Kurt Bond and everybody else. So let's just get started. First of all, let me ask you this, Danielle. Do you have a college degree?
I do have a college degree, and I also have a graduate degree too.
Okay, so you're an educated Negro. As an educated Negro, then why should we listen to you? Like, why how can you, as somebody with a college degree, tell me how to make money without a college degree? How does that work?
That's such a good question. So my degree is in accounting, oddly enough, and I was laid off in 2007. Haven't been back to accounting since then, but I've not used my degree since 2007. And I make more money than I would have made in accounting. I probably would never be at the salary in accounting as I am right now. So that's how I'm able to speak on that.
Really interesting. Okay, so you have the degree, yep. but you made most of your money without the degree. You did it, by basically doing something completely away from what you were trained to do in college. So that's kind of your point of reference on this. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So let's just start from the beginning. Let's start with jobs. Let's so I want everybody to know, look, you guys know that I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship. You guys know I'm a big believer in Black people doing our own thing. At the very least, knowing how to start a business in case of emergency, in case white folks decide they don't want to pay your bills no more, or you too Black to get their financial support. But you don't have to be an entrepreneur to do well without a college degree, right? You did something on Fly Nubian Queen TV about that. Can you kind of speak to that? Can you name maybe one job, maybe two, that people could find that would allow them to make good money without a degree?
Okay, so that job that I would recommend would be, it's called being an insurance adjuster. So these are the people who come behind after the disasters, after the hurricanes, after the tropical storms. They evaluate the damages and they write checks. So insurance adjusters, you can be independent and you can work for multiple different big name insurance agencies, and you get paid. Some of the more experienced insurance adjusters are making $100,000, $200,000 per year after about, being in the field for a couple of years, and they don't work for no one body. They don't punch no clock. They don't have no boss per se. Like, they're out there making their own money. Now, the downfalls is that you do have to be able to travel. You have to be able to travel quickly, and you don't know how long you'll be in a certain location. However, the upside is that the money that you make is so far ahead of what you could make if you are just working at a traditional insurance as an adjuster, like for State Farm in-house. So there's in-house adjusters and there's independent adjusters, but the independent adjusters are getting paid. And I didn't find out about this until I started doing FEMA inspections a couple years ago, and it was like a whole world opened up. I was like, oh my God, like this is a whole thing that I never knew about, where you don't even need a degree, you just have to have these licenses and, obviously a bunch of different states in order to start making money. And it literally is, a quiet, well-kept secret in a certain community. And a lot of us just don't know about it. And I was just blown away. Like, if I had known about that, even out of college, I likely would have gone that route because I didn't have children, I didn't have a husband, and the idea of traveling like that definitely appealed to me and getting paid to do it. So yeah, I was like, oh, there's another thing I didn't know about that affected my life negatively. So yeah, I would definitely say look into being an independent insurance adjuster.
Interesting. Okay, independent insurance adjuster. Okay, so that's
Yep.
one profession that's out there. It doesn't require people to go out and start a business. Maybe some people don't feel comfortable being entrepreneurs, but it allows you to make good money. How much do independent insurance adjusters make again?
Once you get experience and once you start, I would say after the first couple of years or so, they're making about 80, 90,000. And then after year 3, they're at like 100 and 110, 120. It just literally depends on how many disasters there are per year. So when I was doing FEMA inspections, I saw a bunch of them talking, and they would say things like, it's weird when we tell people that, we're glad that this Hurricane Maria happened. And if you're not in the field, you won't get that. They're not saying they're glad that the hurricane happened. They're saying that, damn, we're about to get paid. And we're about to go to this, South Florida for the next 6 months. And like the claims, like you might get paid $300 per claim. And on a good day, you're doing 5 claims a day. So they're getting paid, a pretty good amount of money. And so that's why they're excited. So yeah, I saw that. I was just like, wow, I was blown away.
Interesting. Everybody who just tuned in, first of all, I want to say to those on YouTube, you had it. I saw you guys mention an echo in the live stream. I want to say thank you for pointing that out, that the echo was there, and it looks like we got rid of the echo. I'm speaking to Danielle Pierce, and Danielle Pierce is the founder of economicelevation.com. And we're talking about ways you can make a lot of money without a degree. We're talking mostly about 6 figures, things like that. And I'll tell you, I think, that when Danielle, when I think about what it means to kind of make money, the best way to learn how to make money in America, I think, is not always just say a college degree or to apply to a certain company or whatever it is that you're trying to do. I think the best training to get when it comes to making money is to learn how to make money. And that sounds like a really weird, almost circular statement that I just made. But, it reminds me of how they did a study. They did research where they were studying why some people are happy and some people aren't. And you know what the conclusion of the study was? Like why some people stay happy and some people don't?
They learn how to make themselves happy?
Yeah, they said happy people are happier because they're happier, which is the craziest statement, right? But it makes sense if you understand, if you're a happy person. Like I'm a happy person. And the reason I'm happy is not because, I'm lucky or my life is just wonderful all the time or I don't have problems. It's because I've chosen a perspective. I chose a point of view. I'm always going to be an optimist. I don't care what it is. I'm going to find, there's always a little glimmer of light somewhere, and I'm going to find that light, right? Well, the same thing I think is true for making money. I talked to an old guy who's 62 years old, and he was my driver at a speaking engagement I did for the National Black Chamber of Commerce.
Uh-huh.
And this guy, his name was Marlon Jackson. And I always talk to the limo drivers, or that are whoever's driving me around. I like to get to know those people. And so Marlon just starts talking, and he basically starts going. He was so deep and so interesting that I said, I'm going to record you because this is really, I'm learning from you right now. But this 62-year-old man said, he said, no, I never went to college. I've never had a job. And I said, you never had a job. I said, so how do you survive? Like, what did you do your whole life? And he said, I said, did you start a business? You an entrepreneur? He said, I guess so. He said, but what do I do for a living? I make money, right? That's it. He said, I find the money and I go make money. That's it. Like, that's it. That's his profession. It's not like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur and a business owner and I'm going to set up a corporation, an LLC, or I work for such and such corporation, or I went to this university and have these credentials. No, he said, I'm going to find me some money and I'm going to go get it. And I love that because it was kind of like this idea that just sort of says, that there's no sort of formal structured way you're supposed to go about getting ahead economically.
Right.
I like the way I used to think was, I was like, okay, well, what school should I go to? What should I major in? What should I study? What profession should I have? What should my career be? No, just figure out how to make some money, right? And if you're a kid, you know, if you're talking about your kids, like teach them how to make money, like basic rules, like figure out where the money's at, and position yourself to get some of it. You know, like, so for example, if I'm talking to a little girl about hair and she loves hair, I would say, well, you know, there's a lot of money being made in hair. If you can find a way to get in that profession, you'll never run out of money, because people are always going to want to get their hair done, right? So speaking on that, you know, what have you observed as a person, you know, who has a college degree? You got the degree in accounting. Accounting's a good way to make a solid living, but you walked away from that, and you've been independent ever since. What's your journey been like as a person who has found different ways to make money without using the college degree or without having to go get a job?
So my journey has been a little bit like start off, go backwards like 5 miles, then go forward, then go up, down, and around. It took me 5 years to replace my corporate salary. I left corporate America, I was working downtown Chicago, I was making $62,000 a year. And at the time, I thought it was just so much money. I was like, oh my God, I'm paid. I'm rich. And then I got laid off, and it took me 5.5 years to replace that, 6 years to finally hit 6 figures, and then multiple six figures every year since then. So it took 6 years post being laid off to be able to get to a point where, you know, I'm finally hitting the 6-figure mark. And again, the 6-figure mark, just to get there is okay. But I think the goal, if I knew then what I know now, the goal should always have been to be, you know, an 8-figure company. The goal should always be to aim higher. I think that we tie how much we're worth into what a company is willing to pay us. I see this so much, especially people in corporate America. One of my best friends, actually my best friend, brilliant. I tell her all the time, like, you have so much brilliance in you. Like, I just told her this yesterday. I was like, but she feels like she's not going to be successful financially if she leaves her job making, you know, 130, 140 a year. She feels like she can't do that as an entrepreneur. And I always tell her, like, if they're paying you this, you're obviously bringing in 3 times that amount, because that's how corporate America works. That's how capitalism works. So they're not paying you what you're worth. And I was like, you just have to step out and just have faith. But we don't have the faith and the self-belief that we can do it, because we've been taught our whole life that the only way to be successful is for go work for this company, let them pay you your salary, get the same amount every 2 weeks, you know, go on vacation 2 weeks out of the year, you know, contribute to your 401k, and just basically, you know, get by. She legitimately doesn't believe that she can be successful outside of that job. It's a safety zone. It's comfortable. And when you're comfortable, it's hard to, you know, break out and be an entrepreneur and be successful, because you have this security blanket that just, you know, sits on you all day, every day. So you feel like, I could work on my business, but you know what, I'm good. My mortgage is paid, the kids good. I'm tired, you know, I'll do it another day. And another day becomes another year. And 5 years later, you're still complaining about your corporate job, working at the corporate job.
Well, you know, by the way, I'm talking to Danielle Pierce. Her website is economicelevation.com. She actually teaches classes there and stuff like that. So it's economicelevation.com. And by the way, if you're watching, please hit the thumbs up button. Take 1 second, hit that thumbs up button. Danielle, you know, I was thinking about being Black this morning. And this morning when I was thinking about being Black, I thought about integration. And I had this really interesting insight into integration after thinking about it for the last 30, 40 years. And I said, you know, integration for Black people would have been great if white people had quit their jobs and come work for us, right? If they had quit their jobs and come work for us, or abandoned their businesses and came to support ours, integration would be awesome, because we'd be the ones, you know, sort of controlling how the integration process happens. But instead, it didn't happen that way, right? They didn't abandon their businesses to come work for us. We abandoned our businesses and went to go work for them. And the reason that that I think white America probably feels like integration was such a good thing is because there was kind of this little trade-off. The trade-off is, you know, look, if you guys come work for us, we'll give you, you know, a basic amount of financial security. You're not going to get rich, but you'll at least know your rent's paid, and you can buy your car, and you know what I mean, and go to dinner a couple times a month or whatever. But you know, we might abuse you a little bit, you know, or you might be a little uncomfortable because you're Black, and you know, maybe every now, you know, we might sort of drown you in microaggressions and remind you every now and then who the boss is.
Yep.
But if you can tolerate that, then we'll keep you secure, we'll keep you safe. And in a way, that's kind of like how maybe some, you think about somebody that's in like an abusive marriage, with somebody they don't really love, somebody who mistreats them, but they pay the bills. Like I had a friend like that. I had a friend who was married to a guy who, was a pretty terrible husband, neglected her, ignored her, he yelled at her for no reason. And she was, she'd every now and then get mad and say like, why do you treat me like this? And he'd say, what are you complaining about? Your bills are paid. You don't have to worry about anything, right? You're comfortable, right? And I think that for Black people, I think that's kind of where a lot of us feel like we feel kind of like, okay, we're in this relationship with this person who abuses us every now and then. Not, maybe doesn't beat us and punch us in the face or whatever, but the abuse is always consistent. The degradation is kind of a recurring theme. And the trade-off, though, is if you tolerate the abuse, then you can have the financial security. If you stand up against the abuse, you will lose the financial security, right? The minute, most of us know this, like you go to your job and you start becoming the outspoken Black person, then you're going to be gone, right? And so in a way, I think personality type comes into play and making a choice. That's what it is. It's just a choice. So for some people, they'll tolerate the abuse, in exchange for the financial security. Some people don't want to tolerate the abuse. But if you get to the point where you can't tolerate the abuse and you want to speak up against it or challenge it, be prepared to take care of yourself. So like when my friend finally stood up against her husband, she finally told him, like, I don't care how, what you do financially, like this is not making me happy. She got a divorce. And the first thing he did was he pulled out the money card and said, well, you do know that without me, you can't even afford to stay in this house. You do know that without me, you won't be able to drive that car anymore, right? And she had to get to the point where she literally told him, this is a true story, everybody. I'm serious. And I'm using this analogy so you can understand what Black people are experiencing in America. She told him, she said, I would rather live in a cardboard box than to put up with your bullshit. But it took her time to get to that point, and she had to be a certain kind of woman to even be able to say that, because a lot of people can't do that. What are your thoughts on what I just said, and how do you think that applies to what we all go through, in corporate America, every single day?
I think it's the perfect analogy. I've been in corporate. Granted, I didn't stay there for decades because I knew within the first 90 days, I was like, this is some bullshit. I'm not feeling it. I'm not, this is not the lifestyle that I want. But you can get used to anything. And I learned that in corporate. I've learned it, from my childhood growing up with all the bad things that happened and things I went through. You can get used to any level of dysfunction and discomfort that's imaginable. It's the equivalent of when you have stories of children who were kidnapped as, very small children, and then they grow up and they're 18 years old. They have a chance to get away and they don't leave. Like they legitimately don't want to leave. It's traumatic bonding. That's what I would describe the relationship of most people that are working in corporate America. It's a situation of traumatic bonding. So it's benefiting you. You want to get away from it, but it's also hurting you, but you're not able to leave. And again, it just comes down to we don't see the path. We don't see the way out. And then what happens too, and you guys can let me know if I'm wrong, when you do talk about leaving your quote unquote good corporate job, you have people in your ear telling you, oh, why you want to leave that good job? Why you want to leave those benefits? You make $35 an hour. I ain't never made $35 an hour. What you gonna do when you leave? Are you sure you're gonna be able to, be successful? And then my favorite is what happens when you fail? What you gonna do? You need to keep your job and have a backup plan. You don't just quit no good paying job. And that is hard to overcome for the average person. It was hard for me to overcome. And I consider myself to be above average intelligence. But if you are already have a seed of doubt and somebody comes along and you got 10 people watering that seed every day, before long, you'll start to feel this exact same way that you do. So you're not going to leave. Most of us, we do not have the courage to break out of that situation. And that's why most of us will continue to stay working those jobs that we hate, with people we don't like, with the boss who doesn't like us, and that we know more than that boss because it's comfortable and we literally do not know another path to get out of it.
Yeah, I think this is a good point, Danielle. It's funny, when I was telling you earlier about my friend who had the abusive husband, when she told her friends that and her family members that she was thinking about leaving him, that was what she heard. And like why would you leave? That's a good man. My baby daddy don't even pay child support. You got a man that's providing for you and doing this for you, doing that for you. And she lost all of their mutual friends. She said all their mutual friends stopped talking to her, and because they thought she was being unreasonable by walking away. And so that just goes deeper to explain how the analogy works. I mean, abuse is abuse. No matter what context it is. Pimping is pimping, whether whether you're talking about on the street or you're talking about in corporate America or whatever. And I think that everybody has to kind of decide like which section of the freedom spectrum that you want to be on. And speaking on what you said about family support or lack thereof, everybody, I don't know a single person who ever walked away from the traditional corporate path who didn't get that kind of pressure from other people. I know I got it. I got it a lot. When my brother was always really loyal to me because I used to change his diapers when he was a baby. Like we used to spend a lot of time together when we were little. And so when I got a little older and I decided to go independent, I was like, hey, why don't we work together? And so he graduated from college and he had these job offers for like maybe $50,000 a year, something like that. And he passed up the job offers because he wanted us to come work together and to start businesses together. And I would get relatives on the phone who would call me and they would say, we need you to talk him out of this. Like, we need you to talk, he's passing up a good job and a good opportunity to come do this crazy entrepreneurship thing. And it was a lot of pressure, but I just sort of said, well, first thing I was like, look, I'm not telling him what to do. He's going to make his own decision as a man. And then number two, I think you're crazy. I think that, that freedom is hard, but that doesn't mean you don't go for it. Sometimes when you challenge yourself to pursue freedom, sometimes it doesn't work out, but that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Like the first slave that tried to escape from the plantation probably got killed, got his foot cut off. That don't mean it was a bad idea. It just means it didn't work, so that's the thing that we, I think, do with, to kill our own possibilities is we don't give people the right to try and fail, right? We don't give people the space to have audacious dreams that might not work out. Like it's like going to play basketball. It's like you saying, I want to be a professional basketball player, and people say, okay, we're going to give you one shot from half court, and if it misses, that means you're a terrible basketball player. Right. You can never play for the rest of your life, right? That's too much pressure. You don't do that. Even LeBron James misses thousands of shots every season or hundreds of shots. I don't know how many, so stop it. Stop it. Stop telling your relative who tried to start a business and it didn't work out that they should have known better and that they were stupid and that they failed. They did not fail. You failed because you didn't even try. You sat around and never had a dream. Your dream was to sit around and tickle a white man's balls until you got old and gray and realize when you're 65 and they hand you that gold watch or whatever the hell they give you on your last day of work, and you're going to look back and realize that you had a lot of potential and a lot of possibility and a lot of dreams and goals that you never pursued, and your dreams will go to the grave with you. The cemetery is filled with wonderful ideas and amazing dreams that never came to fruition because people were too scared to try.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I hope I didn't go overboard. I'm sorry. that brings something out of me. I'm just a big believer that life is short. You're going to be dead one day. You might as well do what you want to do. And don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to try. Even if you fail, you still succeeded, because I've never run into a failure I did not like. I never ran into a failure that didn't help me grow. I never ran into a failure that didn't expose me to new opportunities. I never ran into a failure that didn't make me stronger. So failure, I want to go through life getting as many opportunities to fail as I can possibly find, because the failures are what have made me stronger, not my successes. My successes, honestly, have made me soft. It's my failures that get me going back to the drawing board and coming back as Superman. Right. So that's what I think people need to understand. Okay. So Danielle, go ahead. Let me ask you this. Okay. So you mentioned insurance adjuster as one as one way to make money without a degree. Give me another profession that you know about.
Another profession, or well, a business that I know about is so a lot of people, especially in the Black community, are super handy. They know how to, repair things. They're great at carpentry. They are just naturally good at doing these types of things. So why not take that particular skill, set up a business behind it, and then go out to get contracts with different banks to repair and maintain foreclosed properties? That's another one. And again, this is like a very closed kind of good old boys network. A lot of us didn't know about it. I've been in real estate for 12 years and didn't find out about this until 6 years ago. When you get your real estate license, everybody thinks that you know everything about real estate, but in actuality, you know nothing about real estate. All you know how to do is basically not get sued. So you know how to legally represent buyers and sellers, but you come out of real estate school not even knowing how to write up a contract. That's the reality of it. And a lot of us don't know that. That's why you have a lot of brokers running around who don't make any money, because they don't have any skills to make any money. So you could go out and, set up a business to repair and maintain these foreclosed properties. It works anywhere within the country. This is what I've been doing for the last 6 years. I help other people get started doing it. And it really is, it has its ups and downs. It has its challenges. Dealing with subcontractors is a headache of which I can't even explain on some days. I even had a situation yesterday. However, the upside is that I get to have a say in how my day goes. I get to not punch a clock. I haven't punched a clock in 12 years. I don't have an alarm clock. I wake up whenever I feel like it. And it's weird because my children are doing the same thing. And it's like, wow, they're going to have a totally different perspective than I ever did. I don't use alarm clocks. We don't have any. I get to go to the school when the kids are acting a fool if I need to. I just had to go up there the other day because my daughter wrote a threatening note to this little boy and told him she was going to beat his ass. And I was like, wait a minute, girl, you 8 years old. Like, what is happening? So I had to run up to the school for that. And I'm able to be free as much as you can be in America. Let me put it that way. Like, of course, everybody answers to somebody. I do have deadlines to meet. I do have companies I have to negotiate with, but I'm able to operate as freely as I can be in this setting that we all live in, which, to me at this stage is priceless. Now, in the beginning, it was difficult. It was hard. It was tragic. I always tell people I had 1 month where I made $300 and something. I'm not making this shit up. Like, I legitimately had a month where I brought in like $348 the whole 30 days. And I had to tell myself, well, you really kind of messed up your life, Danielle. Like this, you left your job making $60,000 a year. You claimed that wasn't no money, but it definitely was more than $300 and some dollars. And so that was like rock bottom. And then, like you said earlier, to your point about your successes making you soft and your failures making you stronger, that's where I had to be strong. And I'm not gonna lie, I did try to go back into corporate, but I couldn't get into corporate. It was so weird. I wasn't able to open that door down, knock that door down, where I never had an issue before in the past. So I tried to go back into corporate, couldn't get there. So then I had to rely on Danielle. And that is the scary part that a lot of people run from. The fact that you have to rely on yourself. You're either gonna rise to the occasion and deal with all the repressed things that you have, all your issues, all your fears and doubts, or you're gonna, mask all of that and put on your good corporate face and your good corporate voice and your good corporate hair and go and get a job. And so I was able to make that transition. But again, I went kicking and screaming. It was not like, oh, la-di-da, let me be a successful business owner. It was like, oh, hell no, let me go back and get a job. And I just wasn't able to get one.
Well, I love it though. I think it's sometimes when the door gets, shut and locked
permanently. Yeah.
That's good for you because it forces you to change your thinking. It's like if you're trying to move on from a bad relationship to something new, if you got both doors open, you're gonna fail in both situations because you can't go back to your ex because your new partner isn't making you happy at that particular time, right? So sometimes that door needs to be locked for you to be forced to really move on. At least and here I am again telling myself, talking about real life situations, where I was madly in love with some horrible woman, and it wasn't until she told me to get the hell out that I actually had to move on. And it would be like a year later where I'd be like, God, I'm so happy that she forced me to move on. Like I'm so much happier. I'm in such a better situation now. But that's how addiction works. You know, the same
Yes.
way we can get addicted to drugs or addicted to love, we can get addicted to the corporate plantation. You know, because it ain't always bad. You know, the money's good. It's just that there are other things about it that kind of bother you, and you're like, I want to get a new life, but sometimes, you know, you can't experience that growth without going through a little bit of that discomfort and being forced to depend on yourself. In fact, the best Black entrepreneurs that I know tend to be people, you know, like myself, you know, who had no other choice. You know, like once I started becoming more outspoken as a Black man when I was teaching at Syracuse University, I was effectively blackballed from all the white universities. They didn't want a professor like me challenging the racism of the institution and all this other stuff. They didn't want any of that. You know, so even if I had tried to go and get a job with some other institution, it would have been very difficult. So, you know, I think that being blackballed and being pushed out can be a good thing. You know, so let me ask you this, Danielle, you were talking earlier about the second profession in terms of working on foreclosed properties and stuff like that. Do you teach any of that? I know in economicelevation.com, you teach some stuff on real estate.
Yes.
If people come in and they join one of your classes at economicelevation.com, is there, or would they have the ability to kind of ask you how to get started, you know, in that particular area if that's something that they needed help with?
Yes, so I have a virtual online course, which is also accompanied with, which also accompanies myself as a mentor slash coach. So I have a couple hundred people that I've helped so far start this business, like in pretty much about 30 different states around the country. Some are just in the beginning stages, some are in the, you know, process of getting their first contract, and some are actively already working. And so I help people get started with that. You know, if you go to the course, everything there is half off because we're just launching. So it's just, you need a discount code, and the discount code is Elevate. But I absolutely help people get started with that. It's absolutely a real legitimate business. I still work in the business. I never teach on anything that I don't know personally or that I have not experienced myself and that I haven't accomplished. I'm not telling you, like a lot of times you see online just generic information, you know, in these courses you see a lot of Black women empowerment. That's the latest thing, you know, a lot of Black girl magic, like, yeah, girl, you got this. And it doesn't add any significant value that you can see, touch, and feel. Like what I'm doing is showing people how to set up legitimate businesses to go out and secure these contracts to kind of level the playing field, so to speak. So the requirements to get in are not that difficult. You got to be able to pass a background check, of course, but everything else, you know, I can assist you with along the way. It's not completely free to get started. Like you need some money to buy insurance and set up your business. But outside of that, like once you get that together, you can go out and get a contract. And again, you can work in the state where you live, the city and state where you live, or you could work potentially in other places as well, which I've done and which I still do a little bit here and there. So it's extremely viable opportunity. I tell everyone that I know about it, especially people who are in the real estate industry already, especially my real estate brokers who I know are struggling trying to figure out how they can get paid, you know, working with crazy ass buyers and crazy ass sellers. I especially like to work with them because it gives them, it's like a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, oh, well, I never heard about this. I should do this. I'm like, yeah, you can come on and do this. And not saying you don't have to work with buyers and sellers anymore, but you can limit that because a lot of people be crazy as hell sometimes. They just be, especially when you're a real estate broker and you got everybody, you know, you got folks want to live here, but, you know, can't afford it. And then they tell you things like, God is going to provide a way. And it's just like, oh, shit, I ain't never going to get paid off this deal. So it's a way out for people, you know, who are in real estate or even not in real estate. Like it's a legitimate opportunity and I'm super ecstatic about it.
All right. All right. So everybody who wants to follow up with Danielle and get some training in the areas that she teaches, which she's very, very good at this stuff, especially real estate, you know, business development, things like that. Go to economicelevation.com. Thank you, High Vibe, for sharing the URLs, economicelevation.com. It's, you know, Danielle, I know, you know, what you do. I admire it immensely. I think that you're really good at what you do. She's a consummate professional. You know, I worked with Danielle, you know, on more than a few occasions, and I think that, I guess it reminds me of just, you know, what I'd love to see in the Black community is a lot of us just working together and doing great things together. And, you know, because when you're working together and you're helping each other in business, I just think that that's how you could take away all the stress and the pressure and the fear that comes with trying to do it all by yourself. You know, I see a lot of people out here that are like, oh yeah, I want to do it, I want to do it, and they don't know what to do. They don't have a group that they're a part of. They don't have people that they can bounce ideas off of. So I think places like Economic Elevation, and also to an extent the Black Business School, you know, these are places where you can kind of connect with other like-minded people, so you don't feel like you're out there by yourself, right? Because as much as we like to wish that we were the majority of the community right now, we're kind of a niche, you know, like Black folks who are really like it's sort of like there's an awakening of consciousness, and there's a lot of people that are connected to, you know, certain angles of Blackness, you know, like oh, you know, Gucci did something racist, so we're all mad at Gucci right now, which is fine. But I think that when you go a little further and you look for those people that say, okay, you know, I don't like this, I'm going to change it, I'm willing to learn, I want to grow, that's when the crowd starts to thin out, you know, because it's easy to talk about what you want to do, but actually doing it is a whole different level. So I like hanging out with the doers, and I know Danielle's a doer, and that's why I think you guys should check her out. So thank you, Danielle, for a great conversation today.
Thank you so much. I would just add one other thing. The discount code is Elevate. I think you forgot to mention that. So everything on the site is still half off. The discount code is Elevate. But yeah, the crowd does thin tremendously when you start talking about doing versus just being in your feelings, as they say. I do like to work with the doers as well. So I want people who are already motivated, because I don't sell motivation. I can't give it to you. So you have to have that fire already, because otherwise you'll join, and within like 2 weeks, you kind of fizzle out and you're like, oh, back to square one, back to the next, you know, the next thing that comes along. Like it takes, just be coachable, you know, just be coachable, just be ready to execute. Don't be complaining. Don't be a whiner. You know what I'm saying? I know that, you know, you've been kicked down a lot, but this is a path. And if you follow it, it definitely works.
Well, I love it. All right. So everybody, hope you guys caught that. Her website is economicelevation.com. And the discount code is Elevate, the word Elevate. So economicelevation.com. Her name's Danielle Pierce. And me, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School in Your Black World. If you're on YouTube or anywhere else, please take 1 second to hit that thumbs up button. Also, remember, we need your help. We are an army of Black economic intelligence and the Black economic revolution. So everybody in here is a soldier. You are enlisted, you're deputized. I want you to share the content with your family, share it with anybody on social media you're connected to, have these conversations. If Black people have more economic conversations, then Black people will be able to have fewer conversations about oppression. So let's start having economic conversations so we can talk about being economically empowered instead of always and only talking about being economically oppressed, right? Because the economic illness is what causes struggles in so many other areas. So let's fix this. Let's get this right in this generation. So thank you again, Danielle. It was great talking to you.
Likewise.
All right. And I'll see you guys very, very soon, and have a good day. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.